Hello, hope that this video finds you well and whole and making some progress on your research paper. I want to describe for you and hopefully clarify for you the progress report worth 50 points. And progress reporting is a very common document. It's very common in the real world, not just here, for you to write a report to superiors, letting them know about your progress on a particular project that you're working on. Don't think of this as one of those fake school documents. Let's get real worldy here. You are working on a project that you're going to give to me that you hope to get a really good grade on. I hope that you give me a project that is more than less pleasurable to read, then I can give you a good grade on. So you need to appraise me of your progress on this. This is a real world document written from you to me. And I am not showing you a sample because in the past when I showed samples, I think students kind of went through it and kind of paraphrased the sample and changed pertinent details. And I want you to think about the process and think about what you need to do and then write it to me. It is a 50-pointer, but I think aside from that, I'll give you practice with a real world document and force you to think about what you need to do. Now the format, it's simply at the top of the sheet, simply do a memorandum format at the very top. Don't go scooting it halfway down the page because this thing needs to be at least a page long. Single spaced memorandum format, like my memo to you. Mine's not quite a page, but yours should be more than a page. Okay, and you don't have this little junk up here and the heading. You could have a heading that just says memorandum if you'd like, but I'm not a stickler for that. But it's to me and it's from you. And add a phone number up here, just so while I'm looking at it and it's handy, I might actually call you back and say, hey, you're thinking of doing this? I'm treating it like a real world document. You might cause me to think I need to talk to you because you're about to get yourself in trouble. Write the date of the progress report when you send it. You can send papers to me the day before they're due or up to 3 o'clock on the day they're due. Send it as a file with your name on it, progress report, and your last name. And just call it progress report. And then you kind of reword the statement, which serves as kind of a memorandum heading. And that's fine. You have the due dates there. You can look it up. You need to look at the due dates and figure out things. Now, in the background, you simply need to, it's a paragraph. It need not be cited, but you want to tell me what your subject is and tell me why it's important and give me a brief overview of the topics that you're going to be exploring. What I would suggest doing, ideally by now, you have determined the major points, the major, and maybe even some of the subheadings of your paper. In essence, all you need to do is kind of turn that into some sentences and your job is done. Work completed. Notice I have an italicized word here. Detail the secondary research that you have done. Say you're doing all secondary for this particular project because we're not doing the survey, so it's all secondary. But that's where whatever pre-writing and writing you've done so far should be included, and detail it. This section, your goal is to show that you've gotten things done. So this is not the section you want to skip. This section right here should be the longest section. Don't fake it. It's just like a resume. Don't fake it, fluff it, etc. But give some details, okay? And yet there should be quite a bit. You've already completed quite a bit if you think about all we've done, where you scanned, skimmed articles, determined a topic, you have done a proposal, you've taken lots of notes. How many sources have you looked at? How many sources have you actually used? You can break it all down, and please do that. Now, I do want to point out a major flaw with the progress report in general at this point. And the major flaw content-wise is people sometimes make one of two mistakes. And again, I'm not telling you to lie, to fabricate truth. That's never what I tell you to do. You need to the truth and integrity are vital. But you can make things seem better than they are, and you don't want to do that because ultimately you have to produce the goods, and you don't want to blindside somebody. If in the real world, especially, you're doing a project and you know you won't make the completion deadline, you need to, not make it sound so good that when you give them the completion deadline, they, are totally surprised by it. On the other hand, some people at times have done these sorts of reports and made things look so grim that their project's been canceled and or they've been fired. Again, sometimes that happens just because people aren't doing the job, but continue on. Anyway, work completed, be detailed. Now down here, this is the part that's really useful. Look ahead, read the criteria once again. It's posted under the research paper folder. What exactly does your paper have to be? Okay. And break it down. What do you have to do in order to complete the multiple small tasks that will allow you to have a 12 to 15 page paper? And as much as possible, set for yourself some projected guidelines when you want to get things done. This says to me that you're aware of the complexity of the task. This says to me you have a plan for getting it done. So make sure that you give some detail to that as well. Again, ideally, in some ways you've done more, and you really have. Getting started is harder. At this point, you're just continuing what you've been doing. But you should have quite a bit in work to be completed. That should be the biggest section. This also should have a fair amount of detail. Anticipated problems, that's not an option. And you want to maintain a positive tone. But show me you're in control. Don't say, I don't foresee any problems. Well, that just means you're blind, okay? You need to predict potential snafus and give contingency plans. The word snafu may not be current to you, or you may not know what it means, but snafu was actually an acronym coined in World War II, and it stands for situation normal, all fouled up. If the GI was particularly salty, you might have substituted another word for the F. You might have heard of Murphy's Law. That's negative. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Well, I'm not asking you to be positive. Maintain a positive tone, but show that you understand by predicting what could go wrong. I mean, what could be happening? And be real world. In your real world, what problems might cause you to not be able to deliver this paper? Technical problems, technical glitches, having to care for people, job. Maybe you are having to work more than you were before. It's kind of the way I feel sometimes with this new thing. But just make it real world. Tell me about your life in your world there. And a contingency plan is, if this were to happen, this is what I'll do. I have a contingency plan for this crazy distance learning. I have a computer. It is this old Toshiba, and it's done amazingly well. I'm so thankful. It was cheap, man. Had it for about 5 years and only paid $380, I think, for it, but it keeps trucking. I don't trust it, though. I tried to have a contingency plan for distance learning by getting a backup laptop from school, but they couldn't give me one. But I have a contingency plan where I can drive over to my son-in-law's house, and he has a computer that I can press into service if need be. That's a contingency plan. Think of things like that. And then finally down here, this doesn't need to be super long, but what have you learned about your subject, the research process so far? How is this going to benefit you and your classmates? You can ignore that because I just realizing now I've already PDF'd it and sent it to you. We're not doing the presentations, which is a bummer because it's a shame you're doing all this work. Usually we can at least present it to 8, 10, or 12 people in the classroom. Sometimes there's even been 14, but not this time. But, how's it beneficial? How might it benefit other people? I know the papers I actually read here have benefited my wife and family because I've shared ideas I've learned. But overall, give us the assessment of your progress. And again, I'm not giving you a sample because I found too many times people just kind of looked at the sample and paraphrased and tweaked it, and it was obvious they're maybe not echoing, but doing something like that of the original. And what I want you to do is, really dig into these various tasks. Think about in detail what you've done and especially what you need to do. And in the work to be completed, this is a good time to kind of break down what you want to have things done by. I kind of made that a little easy-ish for you because there's some deadlines on the schedule you might want to familiarize yourself with. So finally down here as I write, finally revise and edit your work. At some point, read out loud. You don't have, well, you do have former papers. I did send you all a scan of your proposal. Look at those and note the mistakes. You want to change those things, especially as you're editing. Look for redundant words. That's a very common error. Look, and if you're reading out loud, be aware if something sounds funky, fix it. It probably is weird. And of course, you want to make sure that you keep in mind your audience. It truly is me. It is me. It is appropriate, certainly, for you to use the pronoun I because you are writing about your actual, for real self. It is appropriate to write you if you're actually referencing me. Okay? Don't use it in that slangy way where you might use you. You know, you're sitting there looking at the screen at 12:30 in the morning. Well, I never look at a screen like this at 12:30 in the morning. You're talking about yourself, man. That's the way you sometimes works. If you're going to use you, make sure it's actually Mr. Ray. Okay? So do this, and I think you will prosper. Online, it tells you when to submit it, and certainly you can submit it the day before that. Don't do it any earlier. Again, I'm a firm believer in the process, and you should type this up and sleep on it at least one night before you send it. Some of my colleagues, when we were all on the ground in real classrooms, they would give this assignment and have the students do it in class and submit it by the end of class. I mean, it's an hour and 20 minutes. How long does it really take? I can appreciate that, but it's far better if you spend an hour one day and 20 minutes the next day than putting it all in one day because you cannot see things that a good night's sleep and some distance can give you. So give it what it needs to be given. Get it done. And again, as always, you have questions, shoot me an email. In the email, make it clear what you want. Don't just give me a vague, tell me what you think with paper attached. But you can certainly attach things. Just don't give me a paper with no instruction what you want me to do with it. And always put emails on any, not emails, but phone numbers on any email you send so that I can get back to you. Anyway, have fun if possible. Be good always and stay safe. God bless you.